Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. All right, it is draft night day. It's going to be soon, like about 12 hours from now, maybe more, 15 hours from now, somewhere around there, maybe more. It's midnight, so pay me no attention in regards to that. But the point is, we've crossed the threshold for draft day, which means teams are trying to put themselves in a position to have what they want to use, more or less have their teams in place, everything that they want to know about in regards to these, how the fit will fit with what they have and all that. They want to know all of that ahead of time. So, because of it, some of these teams that want to get from under the tax apron, who don't have first round picks, some of them trying to put themselves in position to have those things before the draft. And the Boston Celtics are the team that has done so today. Now, we announced a trade earlier that just simply got rescinded. Malcolm Brogdon is not going to be a Clipper. Clippers backed out of that trade, essentially saying that they were concerned about his health. That threw the entire Porzingis trade off, but the Wizards and the Celtics were still in agreement that something needed to be done. And, well, that tumbled forward to have it so that Marcus Smart was traded. Finally traded. The end of an era. Marcus Smart is headed to the Memphis Grizzlies in this trade. Tyus Jones is going to be headed with the 35th pick that happens to belong to, I believe, the Grizzlies. I think they got 35. It now goes to Wizards. So the Wizards are adding picks to their situation in their rebuild, and Tyus Jones finally gets a starting point guard position. Now, we don't know if the Wizards actually want him to be their starting point guard, but we know that Tyus Jones has always been good enough to be a starting point guard. So he's definitely going to be a player that should likely ascend in value with the Wizards. And, of course, they're going to be drafted something of some kind with that 35th pick, along with the 8th pick and whatever other picks that they picked up as well in this process. Second rounders and swaps. I don't know if any of that's for this year that they got in the Bradley Beal trade, but as you can see, they're loading up. Albeit not as much as most thought. And, of course, the Celtics, as we said, they didn't have a pick earlier. We were talking about the trade. The one thing I knew about the Celtics is that they weren't in the first round. I didn't even see them in the second round. Well, they switched that up. They got themselves the number 25th pick out of this situation. And they also got next year's Golden State Warriors draft pick, first round. So that goes along with Porzingis to the Celtics. And the Celtics still have Malcolm Brogdon's rights, but no Marcus Smart. So that changes what you see in the Celtics. I'd imagine they're going to trade Malcolm Brogdon now. Since they didn't find a taker for him with the Clippers, they're going to have to get him healthy first. So that's going to get a little awkward for everybody, given the fact that he thought he was out the door. And now he's back in the door with concerns about possibly not being able to move him, period, with whatever the heck the Clippers found that they were concerned with. I'd imagine the other teams are going to be like, yeah, we concerned too, just off the strength of their concern. So it's going to be hard to move Malcolm Brogdon. And most importantly, if he's not healthy, that's going to throw a monkey wrench in everything the Celtics are trying to do. $295 million is what they're expected to play Jaylen Brown. $295 million. A super max for Jaylen Brown. And we have talked about this 100 times in regards to the Celtics. I already told y'all that I wouldn't pay him that. I thought it was significantly less than that. When I said it, I was thinking I was exaggerating. $235 million. I thought I was exaggerating. No. They are giving him the super max. And I'm telling you, that is the most ill-advised thing possible for the Celtics. Ill-advised. And they gave away Marcus Smart for sound reason. The reason to give away Marcus Smart is because you want to stay underneath that second apron. And because Marcus Smart doesn't exactly shoot the ball like Steph Curry. And, of course, we say Missoula ball is three-point shooting based. Everything they do is three-point shooting based. So they were able to get rid of a player that, even though he's on their team the entire time, the team has changed underneath him. Just like I said, Jaylen Brown. It's like it doesn't make as much sense to have non-shooters on the team. And so I'm not surprised to see Marcus get traded, because Marcus doesn't necessarily fit Missoula's system at all. And so that's an unfortunate thing, because you don't want to be giving away a player like Marcus Smart to a team like the Grizzlies, because clearly if there was ever a team he fit on besides the Celtics, it would be the Grizzlies. This is a perfect fit. He's obviously going to be filling in for Tyus Jones, and the 25 games of Ja is also going to be accounted for. You also have another defensive player that could probably come in and let them get rid of what's his name, Brooks. If they want to get rid of Dylan Brooks, they now have Marcus Smart who can play that role. Tyus Jones out the picture. It's a lot to look at there in regards to their guard position. Obviously, they gave up number 25 to do this. They didn't get back in the draft in regards to that. So I'm very curious to see what the Grizzlies feel about what they're doing. Obviously, you wanted them to take a point guard with their pick when you thought Ja was out for 50 games. With him only missing 25, it's going to be quite interesting to see what the Grizzlies do when he does come back. Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, Dylan Brooks out in theory, Tyus Jones out in theory. Now, you're bringing in Brandon Clark, of course, who's coming back from his Achilles injury. The Grizzlies have a strong team. I'm pretty damn certain they got better. I'm pretty damn certain they got better. When you move the 25 pick, I'm hesitant because I don't really want to move out of this draft in general. But if I'm the Memphis Grizzlies, I see the logic all the way around. I see it. If the player fits, the personnel works. They get rid of Tyus Jones, who needed to get out of that role as a backup point guard behind Ja Morant. He needed to get out of that role. And so all of this looks pretty fair to me as I assess it in real time, looking at it. Porzingis, of course, with the Celtics is a perfect fit in my mind. A strong shot blocking presence and shooter in Missoula ball land. So it just makes sense. It makes sense. You add shooting to your team. You add draft capital to your team. Now that they have the 25th overall pick in Boston, they can get themselves one of these youngsters that can also shoot the ball. Maybe they can even trade both of those picks and move up even further and draft somebody that really fits that deal, like Grady Dick or Jordan Hawkins. I can see them targeting anybody that shoots the ball very well. I can see them targeting Keontae George. I can see them targeting Jet Howard at this point. I can see them targeting. And as I said, what I would do is try to get Miller. Take all that pick equity they got, a couple other things that they got, and just bring themselves Miller. Also, what's noteworthy, and reason why I mentioned Miller, and this is relevant, is because a lot of people compare Miller to Middleton, and Middleton just declined his $40 million deal. Now, I don't know that Middleton's planning on declining that $40 million because he wants to take a pay cut with Milwaukee to help them continue to build, which is what I actually think could be possible here, because I don't think he's getting $40 million from anybody else. And I don't think Chris Middleton thinks that he's getting $40 million from anywhere else. So that's something that needs to be said. But with the fact that he's being compared to the player that could be the second or third overall pick, or whether that player is being compared to him, I can see where they're trying to use that to their advantage. If that's his goal, I don't know if it's the right way of looking at it, but I can definitely see them reacting to all of that, is basically what I'm saying. But to him trying to opt out of $40 million, I hope it's not to get more money. I hope it's to get less for more years. You know what I mean? But to decline $40 million is very risky for a guy like Chris Middleton. So that's what I think he's doing there. I think he wants to stay with Milwaukee. I think he probably wants to get himself about 4-year deal. And they'll probably make that money make more sense in a different way, which will then, from there, allow them more flexibility to go do something. Either way, with him declining $40 million, the Milwaukee Bucks are in position to do something. And so be ready for that. I don't know if they're going to trade up. I done already told y'all, if I was Milwaukee, I'm probably going after a player like Kevin Durant. I am. Even though Phoenix is probably not even considering that. That's the kind of mindset I'm doing. Paul George. I'm bringing Giannis, one of those guys. That's what I'm going to do. And so with Middleton now declining to $40 million, I could totally see somebody saying, let's swap Middleton's contract for one of them dudes. Or let's send Middleton to a third team. Let me send you Paul George and let me get some big pick equity to Clipperland in regards to something. So another thing I'm going to tell y'all about this Malcolm Brogdon backing out Clippers situation. I'm telling y'all, it's the same thing that comes to mind when I saw the trade actually being executed. This signals that the Clippers are trying to keep their win now timeline. And while I'm not completely against the Clippers keeping a win now timeline, I very much think they should keep their options open in regards to rebuilding. And so with them backing out of that Brogdon contract situation, I wonder if that signaled that they're not 100% sure if they want to be a win now team. Now, if Malcolm Brogdon's medicals came back negative and they just backed out, that's it. But this seemed to me that somebody got cold feet. Anybody in their right mind, who's been watching Chris Middleton for the past 5 years, knows that he has injury issues. You know he's injury prone. So you're not picking him up with the intentions of thinking his medicals are going to be 100%. They never will be. He's always injured. With that being said, I just wonder if they use his injury excuses as a reason to back out, because they probably have different directions from which they want to go with their franchise amongst those who are running things. It's what it seemed like to me. One half of the room wants to keep the win now timeline. The other half of the room probably wants to go in a different direction. And so that's what the tea leaves could be showing me. I'm not saying that that's 100% what I'm seeing. I'm just saying that my speculation leads me to think something like that could be possible. Because Malcolm Brogdon, you're not going to trade for Malcolm Brogdon, get him to your situation, and then say, well, I'm not so sure about his medicals. It's like, who are you targeting? One of the most injury-prone players in the league, right? Then, of course, his medicals are going to be funny. So what are we even talking about? So that's really where I'm at with that. I don't think the Clippers are going to keep a win now timeline. I've been lobbying for them to sell on Kawhi and PG for over 6 months, and over the last couple of weeks, I've been targeting them on a couple of my videos, making it clear what I think, loud and clear on my channel, that they need to blow it up and consider what their options are in regards to getting all of the equity they can for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. It's one of the most important topics on this channel for some reason, even though I don't like the Clippers. At the end of the day, it just becomes a situation where you know their timeline doesn't fit any real thing that would otherwise make it so that being over the tax apron makes any sense. The players that they surround Paul George and Kawhi Leonard with are not good enough to get them over the hump. And the reason why is because they gave away too much for Paul George initially, never recouped that value in any other way. So they just never have enough. And at some point in time, you got to realize that the core is still at a point where you can get something for it that's really, really good, but your timeline is, the window for you to win the championship is closed. So I identified that is this year. Still good enough to get something for them dudes, but definitely not getting a championship with them dudes. So it's like, at some point in time, you got to either swap that up somehow to try to recoup the value that's lost so you can have enough to bring to whatever you have, or you got to reset your situation. And so that's what I think the Clippers need to do. They need to do one of those two things. They need to reset their situation or find a way to recoup some of what it is that's lost by giving up some of what they have to get back a sum of parts that ultimately allow them that flexibility. It's not about Kawhi and PG not being good enough to win. It's just that they don't have their picks to give them what it is that they need. They don't have the picks to give themselves the leverage to make everything that they own up to value. And because of it, they're just kind of going to stay in no man's land until they bite this bullet and move one of these two small forwards, Kawhi or Paul George. So that's what I have to say. You got to trade one of them dudes for picks in order to fully recoup what you've lost. You can't trade them for Malcolm Brogdon and think that's going to be value. You're not going to get value. And that's a mistake the Clippers have been allowing themselves to make. Trading away guys like Kennard for Gordon is just ill-advised. You can't win that way. You can't win in the game of NBA that way when you are constantly trying to work from a place of disadvantage with your assets. You just don't have enough. And you're not going to manifest it from nowhere because none of your stuff is getting increased in value. None of them players are getting better as you bring them to you. You just bring older stuff to you that's only going to decrease in value. So it's like everything they've been doing is just backwards. It's butt backwards. And they only got about 2 more minutes before Kawhi Leonard and Paul George can't really net you any futures. So that's why they need to do this now. If they let another injury hit either one of those players, the chances of them getting a first rounder, multiple first rounders, swaps in seconds, any of that stuff goes out the window. You just don't have those players garnering that type of respect no more. So as I understand that, I tell all of y'all, it's not just my Clipper dislike and hate that makes me say this. It's just my understanding of how things go, especially with the collective bargaining agreement having changed on them. It makes absolutely no sense to have something that's expensive that cannot win. You know what I mean? And while Ballmer can afford to throw money away in this league without any concern, it's still something that you just don't do. You want to succeed. It's not the object of the game is to not throw your money away. The object of the game is to build a good team. And so once you identify that what you have can't do that, you got to find a way to get what it is that you have into a space where it will allow you to do that. And that's what we're saying here. So I firmly believe the Clippers backing out of that Malcolm Brogdon deal signals to me that somebody in that organization is thinking this way. They're listening to people like myself telling them, you got about 5 more minutes before Kawhi and PG don't have any value. About 5 more minutes. One more rolled ankle, one more knee injury, and them boys ain't going to be able to get you nothing. And nothing else on that roster is going to be able to net you anything as well. And that is your problem. That is your problem, Clippers. You've been working at a place of disadvantage every time you try to make a trade. People looking at you saying, y'all don't really have a whole lot to work with. So I don't really want to do a deal with you that gives you picks, that gives you young players or anything like that, because what am I taking back? Once you start looking at picks once you start looking at the Clippers' assets, you start seeing what it is that they have to get rid of was garbage. When they made that deal with the Wizards, you saw what the Clippers had to give. Marcus Morris Sr.'s contract, not very good. But these are the things they had to try to make do with. And it's like, nah. One of the reasons why you definitely don't bring in Malcolm Brogdon is the chances of him getting hurt again and losing value is high. That's why they're worried about his medicals, because at the end of the day, you bring that dude in and he goes down with another knee injury, just guess what you don't have? The ability to turn him into anything. So it's like you can't be bringing in more assets that are decrease in value, Clippers. You just can't afford to do that. And so I respect them getting out of that Malcolm Brogdon deal for that reason. Not to say that they were going to be giving up too much in that deal, because obviously we didn't see that being the case with them giving away what they were willing to give away. But at the end of the day, they need something that's going to balloon into more than what it was. And that's just the direction the Clippers need to take immediately. They need to pivot starting like right now and start trying to find something that can get better on your team. And so that's what I'm saying. You know, the Clippers, now they have an opportunity here to take what it is that's already in place and do the right thing with it, rather than continue to try to bring Kawhi Leonard and Paul George some win now pieces. And that's another thing. If they want to move forward with Kawhi Leonard, building around Kawhi Leonard, I've been on record saying that I don't think giving away Kawhi Leonard is the greatest idea if you still believe he can give you something, because I think he's one of those guys that you can just put in on a team like Miami and suddenly they're going to win a championship just because he's there. Even if he only plays 20 games, all he has to be is healthy at the right time, hit the right shots, and they're out of there. And so that's the problem with giving away a guy like Kawhi Leonard. The problem is, do you want that piece to have that much of your cap at this stage? And the answer is, if I'm going to be honest about the data that is showing me, of course not. Of course not. And so that's the ill-advised aspect of building around Kawhi Leonard going forward. You want to bring in Pascal Siakam. You want to trade Paul George. Maybe that's not the right idea. If you only expect him to play 20 games, and maybe he won't be available for the playoffs. He's probably the piece that you're more than likely to see decrease in value the most if for some reason you try to retrade him after the next injury. No one's going to believe he's going to play a full season ever again. If you can get something like a first-round pick for him, if somebody's still enamored with his name or the ability to be a cyborg at small, increments at a time. Obviously, that's something the Clippers need to be considering right now. A guy like Chris Middleton declines his $40 million option. I'm not saying I'm moving him for Chris Middleton. I think that's lateral at best. I don't think Chris Middleton's a better player than Paul George overall. And I don't think he's any less injury prone. In fact, I probably trust Paul to stay healthier than Chris. And so I'm not necessarily doing that. But I may facilitate Chris to a third team, and I may take back whatever, whatever that Milwaukee would otherwise want, by throwing in Paul George and sending him to Milwaukee, or Kawhi Leonard, whichever one, send him to Milwaukee. You know what I mean? And get back that pick equity that otherwise would come your way from the third team. I think that's the way the Clippers need to be making moves right now. I think so, because if they reset everything down to the bone, they will recoup everything that they have. They'll get it all back. The combination of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Norman Powell should be able to get you all that back. Zip Zubats, throw it all in, turn it into liquid. Bring back picks from here to 4 or 5 years from now. And I promise you, if you want to build another team with 2 small forwards, it will be built better because you will not have given up so much to make it happen, thus be working with so little to keep it up. In regards to your asset class, trying to make moves and all that, you working with too little every time you go to the negotiation table. So that's what it is, man. The Clippers aren't a difficult fix. That's why it's so frustrating to watch them move like they move. It's like they're too stubborn to do things correctly in regards to overcoming what they're married to. The Kawhi and PG timeline, it's like they're married to it in a way that doesn't serve them at all, and they just keep on finding themselves in a cycle. It doesn't allow them to ever get better. And they make moves to get older to make these people happy, and bringing in players that players know who have been in the league for 15 years is not a good idea. Same thing I said about the Lakers bringing LeBron all his friends. LeBron's friends are his age, fam. You're going to make the team old. No. Don't do that. Stop bringing yourself old stuff, Clippers. Stop doing that. Don't ever do anything like that again. That Kennard for Eric Gordon deal, that's the worst deal. That's almost as bad as the THT deal the Lakers made, getting back Patrick Beverley and giving up Stanley Johnson. I mean, certain stuff is just like, yo, age. Respect it. Dude, respect it, man. The same thing I say about the Bogdanovich trade. Detroit ain't getting nothing of value for Bogdanovich. I don't care how good he shot last year. The man is in his 30s. I'm not giving away a 19-year-old for a man in his damn 30s. Okay, that's no, Detroit. I don't care what y'all talking about. I will never back anything that would allow for us to do something that stupid. I'm never gonna back that. So if the Lakers want to give them 17, you better be getting picks back. If not, don't you bring me back no 35-year-old shooter. Don't you do that, Rob, and think I'm gonna be up here saying anything less than this is bad. That's all it is. And I don't expect us to do it. That's bad. I don't care how well he shot. I don't care. I ain't giving away a 19-year-old for him. And so these type of things is like, yo, as long as we're not doing stuff like that, we'll be on the right side of what we're trying to do. But the moment the Lakers start letting players go by the wayside, not respecting value, with Bron and AD on your tab, you don't have no business doing that. You got no business doing that. And so that's what I want to say, man. These LA teams, the direction they're pointed in, both of them seem like they want to win now, get old. And I'm just looking at them saying, Jokic is not moved by any of this. He's not. He's not moved. So I hope nobody is. Phoenix, same thing. Y'all doing all this dumb stuff to try to build a super team. You're still going to get knocked off by the same team that just won it. I promise you, they're not moved. As a Laker fan who won championships in 2000, 2001, 2002, when you're that good and your teams are in that type of rhythm, you know what I'm saying? They're making trades to get value so they can get deeper. They're coming back better. They're coming back better. Denver Nuggets are certain of that after the trade they made today with Indy. So it's like, if y'all think for 1 second that y'all can get older and think that's going to help you win now, you looking at teams that are not named Denver saying, yeah, they put a super team together, let's do it. Y'all just going to be food for that team. You're going to be food for them Denver Nuggets. They're going to eat and they're going to get a back-to-back off of y'all stupidity for not making the field tougher, but misidentifying how best to build a team that would defeat them and decreasing everything you got, making you worse. Just making the field easier for them. That's all you're doing. And so I'm too smart to do that. I'm too smart to advise LA to do that. And I think both the LA teams need to stop even trying to move in a direction that makes them win now, also known as too old in the modern era. That win now garbage is going to make it so that you're getting beat up now by young teams. And I'm telling you, that's all that's coming. That's all that's coming. You're going to run into the OKCs. You're going to run into Detroit. You're going to run into Wembanyama. You're going to run into whatever Portland's about to put together when they move Dame. Hopefully they think like I'm thinking they do that. You're going to run into all these young teams. And what you're going to do? Not have the energy necessary because you're trying to win now with old guys. No, it doesn't work. It's too many of these youngsters piling on top of each other, man. There's too many of them coming in to think that you can throw out there a bunch of 30-year-old men and not get dusted. You're going to get dusted. They're going to run circles around these dudes. Thompson twins and these Cam Whitmores and all these dudes that are coming in. I'm telling you. Y'all think it's a game. You're going to find out. Jarris Walker one night. Scotty Barnes the next night. Nah, it ain't gonna be sweet for some of these dudes that are small forwards, been around for 11 years. Now they want to go up against these dudes. Nah, Zion's coming back. Do you know what kind of night you're gonna have every night? Deal with Jokic that night. Deal with Luka the Don the next night. Dealing with Paolo the next night. All these people over 240 pounds. Like, if you don't go and get yourself some size, Clippers, if you don't go and get you some real talent, stop playing around with these old guys that have been running around just dominating the field that's no longer. They dominated the field that ain't even in the room anymore. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. So, look, for me, I'm going forward with the Lakers core as a Laker fan out of respect. I don't think we win no championship. I told y'all that this morning. It's the ceiling for our team is no longer a championship. But we still respect that the greatness of LeBron James can overachieve and injuries can take place that can break down teams and suddenly you can find yourself rising to the top. But, just in a nutshell, not with the Laker core as it is, I don't think that we can play enough games together going forward to make our, let's get older timeline nonsense actually make any sense. The Chris Paul ain't winning no championship with the Lakers. Not in my opinion. not in my opinion. Not if he actually has a real role. No, that's not how that works. I'm intrigued by the fact that Middleton is a free agent. I'm not paying him $40 million, but if he wants to jet to the Lakers, I'd love for him to add himself to the situation. I would. I think he would be a great player to have. Problem is, again, price tag. But if I'm going to go get me a win now guy, it's going to be a guy that barely misses a jump shot. And that's exactly who Chris Middleton is. Somebody who can run your offense too. I've watched them do it. They were better when they put the ball in his hands in certain situations, especially the year they won a championship. So I don't think Middleton's leaving. But as I think about players that I wouldn't mind seeing us do the win now thing with, timeline thing with, he's a player that I would be like, yeah, that fits well. Length, defensive possibilities, but overall shooting from every level possible. So yeah, that's the type of player we want. I think Middleton's from LA too. So yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, if I had to go that route, if I were to betray everything I just said, and I'm the Lakers, I definitely want a Chris Middleton type on my team. So these are the type of things I'm just letting go into my head and out the other ear. But I'm shaking my head because I know teams are hard-headed. They're hard-headed, man. They don't understand these things. Owners and GMs, a lot of times, they don't respect these things. Go out there and get a little slight 193-pound dude and draft him over the 250-pound dude and then run into a field like this and find themselves calling the 195-pound dude a scrub or a bust. No, he ain't a bust. You didn't build correctly. You should have been looking at what's out there and doing things to help you fight that instead of doing things that you see in your head and like that name and like that, that manager's prospects. So we're going to bring in this guy, do him a favor so he can bring us his guys over the next 3 years. And it's like, yo, you're going to put that guy on the floor and he's going to be beaten. And that's how that's going to go. And so agent game, small ball, all of it, bad mantras for this league. And that's why I like what the Boston Celtics did. They bring themselves Porzingis, slapping him next to Jason Tatum, slapping him next to Al Horford and Time Lord. That's the type of thing that needs to be happening. Stop doing small ball nonsense. Bring yourself the type of comparable bigs that will allow you to guard the Jokic's and the Wembanyamas of the world. If you're not bringing yourself that, you're getting beat. You know what I mean? Boston looks at themselves and say, okay, Cleveland, the stilts they got. I don't think they're going to come back as shallow as they were. They're probably getting out of the first round this year. You're probably going to see them next year. If you don't have the size to deal with them, you're getting beat. Look at Orlando and all those stilts that they're putting together on top of the 2 picks that they get. What if they land LaSure Thompson? What if they land Cam Whitmore? What if they land Taylor Hendricks? You got nothing but 6'10" guys to deal with in Orlando. So it's like, if you're not building to deal with these front courts, then you're probably going to find yourself in situations you're not going to be pleased with. Now, the flip side is, when you bring yourself these type of players, the big dudes, you got to understand they're injury prone too. You mess around and be without a lot of them dudes. Porzingis, we know of his injury issues. Robert Williams, we know. Al Horford's older. So it's like, yeah, did they get better on paper? Sure. Are they more likely to be sturdy as a team, the Celtics? I don't think so. You're letting go of Marcus Smart and you're bringing in Porzingis. You're not a healthier basketball club physically. You're just not. And you're keeping Malcolm Brogdon. You're more than likely to run into more injury issues with those two than you would have with Marcus Smart. So that's something that the Celtics are going to have to be real about. Marcus Smart's had his injury issues. He's awful defensive player of the year 2 years ago. From a guard position. I don't know if I'm as quick to let him go. But it does make sense because he can't shoot and it's Missoula ball. And I'm telling y'all, man, y'all better be married to this Missoula ball thing if that's what y'all doing. You got 1 foot in, 1 foot out if you're going to pay Jaylen Brown $300 million to be in that system. Because that is a whole foot outside the Missoula ball system. I'm telling y'all, if they got any real sense, they will back out of paying that man no $250 million, $90 million. They're going to back out of that. I'm telling you, they're going to back out of that like the Clippers backed out of the Brogdon deal. I'm telling you. It's ill-advised, Boston. I know y'all love that player, and he's good enough to have earned all the respect that he's gotten. He's met all the criteria for a Supermax, which is why he's due to get one, except for the fact that criteria needs to be elevated. You got to elevate that thing. He's not. I'm sorry, he's not. He's just not. If the stats and the stuff tells you he's a Supermax player, then that is what needs to be elevated to a level where you can't reach it so you don't have a bad contract. I hate to be the guy that says that, but somebody needs to say it. It's too easy to get Supermax. It's too easy. Because then you find situations like this where you're obligated to do it, and you know damn well you shouldn't, and when you do it, it's going to be a bad contract, and you could have a situation that ain't a whole lot better than Jordan Poole. Not a whole lot better. Because obviously you're not looking for him to continue developing like Jordan Poole, but just like Jordan Poole, you ain't going to be able to get that type of value out of him, and as a result, you're not going to be able to move it when you need to at that point. There ain't nobody going to pay you $295 million for Jaylen Brown if they know what the hell they're doing. You better find another Matt Ishbia. It's the only way it's going to work. You better find another Patsy. You better find you another A-Rod. I kid you not. Because once you sign that thing, he's definitely a Celtic for life. Jason Tatum? Probably not. Probably not. I think signing him to that may signal the end of Jason Tatum's tenure with the Celtics. Because what you're going to find out is what you just got Porzingis for, you ain't going to be able to retrade him for that. Porzingis is getting older. I don't think he's getting better. He came off a fantastic season. He'll probably have another fantastic season. But you're not going to trade him if he's getting better. You're going to want to trade him when he's going the other way. You know that. You know that. And so I just look at the Boston Celtics and I say, if you look at that move from which they made today with the magnifying glass, what you're going to find out is that it looks good on paper. But the expectancy for what those players are going to do, what Porzingis is going to do, is probably not as high as what you expected Marcus Smart to do. It's different. It gives you more size, but you're reactionary, as I said, to try to match up with these big teams. You're being reactionary, which is what you should be. But you might have given away something that made you special in the process. Yeah. I think this could backfire on the Celtics in a way. Letting go of Marcus Smart is not what I thought they would be doing today. Bringing in Mike Porzingis, I don't think so. No, they're going the wrong direction. With that particular piece. Not to say that I wouldn't bring in Porzingis, but you couple that with trying to play Jaylen Brown $290 million and letting go Marcus Smart, all of that's bad. That ain't how that's supposed to go at all. So I'm just telling y'all, as a Laker fan, I'm ecstatic about what the Celtics are doing because I think they hurt their overall team health long term by doing this today. They definitely didn't help themselves in the way that I would want to help myself if I'm them. Now, bringing in the Golden State Warriors pick could be a blessing in disguise because I don't know what the Warriors are going to look like next year. They could be one of those teams that are in flux. They could be one of those teams that we're saying they're moving who next year, as to which that pick should be very, very solid for the Celtics. And the number 25 pick allows them to get in the draft, so I like that asset coming in and maybe giving them a little more leverage for what it is that we've been talking about. So we'll add those picks to the overall what we're looking at. But letting go of Marcus Smart is something I would not have done. Now, trading him to the Western Conference is definitely something I would have done, because the last thing you want is Marcus Smart hounding you for 4 times a year. You don't want that if you're the Celtics. You know his heart is completely broken tonight. I can tell you that right now. If ever there was somebody who was happy to be drafted to a team, it was Marcus Smart going to the Celtics. So he had a long tenure there. They had many a time where it looked like they weren't going to re-sign him, but he ended up doing a deal to come back for lesser money. It's been so many different times where the Marcus Smart name was mentioned in trade talks and never went through. And tonight, on a whim, after one trade just simply doesn't go through for his teammate and road dog Malcolm Brogdon, he probably didn't even think his tenure on the team was in jeopardy and was just traded off a whim. No loyalty, boy. No loyalty in this game. That's what I want to tell y'all. Marcus Smart was a guy who probably thought his numbers was going up in the rafters in Boston. Probably may, still. But they sent him out like he didn't have that type of history with the team all this time. Like they didn't have so much and go through so much. So I just can acknowledge that. I can acknowledge that. That I know Marcus Smart is not having the greatest night tonight. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he's happy to be going to a good fit like the Grizzlies. But then again, how excited can you go to the Grizzlies when you know damn well you're going to be missing Ja for 25 games? Halfway through the season, you're going to have to incorporate him back into your situation as to which you're going to have to move what it is you get used to or around. All the touches that Marcus Smart's going to be used to getting, it may not come his way once Ja comes back. That fit may not be seamless. He could be on the move again at the trade deadline. So all of this looks kind of, it depends on what they do with other players to make his piece make more sense. Like I said, if they sending out Dylan Brooks, obviously Tyus Jones is out, maybe that role it will be solidified for Marcus Smart. It makes sense, but it ain't the Celtics. You know what I mean? If you're Marcus Smart, it definitely ain't home. So, yeah, there's going to be some upset people in Boston tonight. There's going to be some people who don't believe in Porzingis in Boston, too. They remember the injury history. They know what went on in Dallas. They know what went on, obviously, in New York. And I'm pretty sure they have the other picks, but I'm pretty sure they're upset that Marcus Smart went out. Like I said, it's one thing to bring in Porzingis. You're letting Brogdon go. You only had him for a couple minutes. Injury prone. You don't care. You're happy you turned Brogdon into Porzingis. Turning Marcus Smart and a bunch of picks into Porzingis, or turning Marcus Smart into Porzingis and picks, rather, that's a totally different story. It's a totally different story. Now, as a GM, I love the fact that they brought back picks. I probably want them to bring back picks above all else. So more savvy fans will probably be pleased with that aspect of it. But letting go of Marcus Smart, if we just chose between Marcus Smart at his price and Jaylen Brown at a supermax, I'm not happy if I'm a Celtics fan. I'm not. So that's what I got to say about that, man. As I think about it, I just say, it's fair. It just ain't something that you want if you're a fan. That's all I'm saying. It's fair, but I don't ultimately think those guys are going to be healthy in the end. Porzingis and Robert Williams, I don't expect them to be healthy in the end. I don't. If they are healthy, they can be a hell of a team. If they aren't healthy, it's just Marcus Smart. It's just Jason Tatum doing too much, and Jaylen Brown doing as much as he can to probably turn the ball over. This is what happens. This is what happens when you get married to a player, And then the tax apron situation is as it is. Now all of a sudden you're like, well, I guess we can let go of Marcus Smart because we definitely need to pay Jaylen Brown. We're obligated to do that. And this is like, yo, no, you're not. Just like you gave up Marcus Smart like a thief in the night, you should probably do the same thing to Jaylen Brown, $295 million. So that's all I'm saying. Celtics are headed down a path that, as a Laker fan, I could not be more pleased with, because this is getting them further and further away from 18, in my humble opinion. It looks like they're getting closer as it pertains to the way they're matching up, trying to get with, the program, these big teams. But actually, they got more fragile. So that's what I most appreciate as a Laker fan. And the Wizards are a team that can do whatever they want, man. I'm telling you, I think they're going to be the worst team in the league. Maybe try to break records for the most losses in a season. I don't think they're going to win more than 7 games this year. I kid you not. I kid you not. I don't think they're going to win more than 7 games. Because they just don't have much of anything wrapped up in players right now. Like nothing. Kuzma's going to be a free agent. Porzingis out. Beal out. I mean, they're bringing back Denny Avdija, Corey Kispert, Tyus Jones, 8th overall pick. I mean, it just ain't nothing there. If I'm the Wizards, maybe I'm the guy that's going to swing for the fences and try to bring in Scoot Henderson, because this is the perfect place for Scoot. He's going to be the man for sure if he go to Wizards. Only one with the ball. Not passing to really anyone. And so that is the type of situation I'd want a superstar rebuilding pantheon great to be in. That's exactly the type of situation. So hopefully the Wizards are thinking like I'm thinking, and they'll package some of their pick equity and just go get Scoot Henderson. They have the most comparable trade package. They got the ability to take back salary. They got everything they need to start their franchise with a new cornerstone point guard like Scoot. It should be nothing for them to win that sweepstakes. Nothing at all. Because when I look at them, I say, okay, if Portland wants to do a deal with them, all they got to do is find a third team to take Dame. That's all they got to do. Find a third team to get them whatever it is that they want, if they want to send out the pick, rather. Because, of course, you're not trading Dame in this scenario. You're bringing Dame something, and you're sending Scoot out. So this would allow you all of the Wizards draft equity that they can add to make up the difference. Send that pick equity to the third team and let the third team send the Blazers whatever star. So if that star is going to be Jaylen Brown, then the Celtics get all the picks. You see what I'm saying? If that star is going to be Pascal Siakam, then Toronto gets all the Wizards picks. Very simple stuff. The Wizards can facilitate whatever they want and get back Scoot Henderson. They can do that. They can definitely do that. So I don't know if the Wizards are thinking that way, but this is a great year to go after a superstar pantheon great. Maybe next year isn't. Maybe next year isn't. Maybe the year after that isn't. But Scoot Henderson's on the board right now, and he's going to be tradable. So if I'm the Wizards, I got what I need. I ain't letting the New Orleans Pelicans outbid me for that. That's never going to happen. I'm going to put the pick equity necessary up, and I'm going to get that third team that has that star, and we're going to make it happen. With Portland or with Charlotte. We're going to make that happen. And so that's what the Wizards need to be doing. You ain't doing nothing else. What else are you doing? You ain't doing nothing. All you're going to do is draft Anthony Black, tell him to do the same thing. You know, which is cool. I like Anthony Black. But if I can aim for Scoot Henderson, then that's going to be the way I would go. So that's it. That's what I'm thinking. Everything else is just draft time, man. We're going to be ready for the draft in, 15 hours, whatever we said. We're going to 17 hours, something like that. It is the day that we've been waiting for on this channel. And, I just encourage everybody to go check out my mock draft. Even though it is upgraded since some of those players I know so much more about now than I would swap them a whole different way. But I ain't going to do another mock draft. I'm going to leave it exactly the way it is and just see what happens there. And that's pretty much my video for today, man. Marcus Smart is a Grizzly. Ain't no loyalty in Boston. Video 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.